Hey YouTube, what's going on? So, with this video, I'm going to cover more of the build of the controller and not just the functionality. Show kind of what I did to make it work for me and my setup. So first of all, I want to look at the LEDs. So I don't know how much people remember on my LED builds, but I had 3 heat sinks in the back. The heat sink is roughly 6 inches by 20, and by having 3 of those, it went all the way across the tank. The problem I'm having though is my tank is 2 foot wide, so with those being on the back, no real high light was getting to the front, you know, up here where I want ground cover and stuff. So I bought them a while back. I just hadn't had time to get them on there, but I bought some smaller heat sinks to go here on the front. And these heat sinks up here, they're only 1 inch wide and 24 inches long, so we have a little bit of overlap problem here at the front, but hey, that's no big deal. We just offset them a little bit and put them up there. And then I just ran 1 row down the middle, which is bright white, royal blue, bright white, red, bright white, royal blue, bright white, red, bright white. Get the pattern? All the way. And then on the back, I kind of left it a lot more like I had it. The only thing I did was I added a light. I added a bright white light in the middle. So each heat sink has 10 bright whites, 4 reds, 4 royal blues, and then the 3 moonlights. The moonlights are only on the back heat sinks. So, you know, only 9 moonlights all the way across the tank. It's more than plenty to light this tank up at night. I think I only go to maybe around 40% on the lights. But anyways, so that's how I adjusted my lights. I've been wanting to do it a long time, get some more light on here. And, you know, I was worried that the reds were going to be way too much in this tank. But really, it's just the right amount. My bright whites, I'm probably going to 90% max. My royal blues, I bet you I'm somewhere around 80-ish. And the reds, I'm more down around 65, 70. And boy, it looks great when they're all on. You can really tell that there is some brightness down here on these ground cover plants. So the sturgeon ribbons should really start showing some growth. And you know, I'm almost certain this area right here was not in there, and that stuff is right on the ground. It hasn't got tall and elongated like this. So we'll keep watching it, you know, see how it does. But I'm really excited to see how this stuff takes off and goes now. So that's how I did the LEDs. Now, with the LEDs, I have fans on here. Let's back out some. So each heatsink has 1 fan on it. And the 3 on the heat sinks they're all tied together. And then if you can see back there in the corner, right there, there's another fan. That one is blowing air out. There's another fan right there. That one's pulling air in. That one's pulling air in right there. And on this corner right here, that one's pushing air out again. All 4 of those fans are tied together. The ones on the heat sinks have their own temperature probe to measure the temperature of the heat sinks, make sure they're not getting too hot, and that probe's actually sitting right there on that heat sink, about right in the middle. It's that wire coming in. Then the wire for the other heat sinks or the temperature probe, it's setting about right there. So at some point I will get these wires cleaned up, and it will actually be hanging up here off the ceiling of the canopy. But yeah, then I've got the other temperature probe right here in that corner, and that's for obviously the water temperature. That's why it's in the water. How about that? So that's how my fans are controlled. These are really actually simply hooking them up. Made use of those holes I cut in and put the vents on. I've had this idea the whole time. I just didn't know how I was doing it until I found Jamie's build and started building the controller. Now over here, that right there is the box that my actual screen is built out of. So on the back, I wish I could get a better video. So you can kind of see right there, what's coming in on the back is some VGA cables off of like a computer screen monitor, and they go into the back of the box. There's 3 sets of those because there's so many wires going into that monitor to be able to control that screen. So I'd like to say that was easy to hook up, but it is not. That screen does not like to be in a separate location from the actual Arduino that controls the thing. So it took me a lot of playing and frustration to get it to be able to extend all the way up in this hood right here, and that used to be a DVD-ROM out of a computer. Gutted it, made it a square box, and mounted it on here. Then I've got it sticking out there. So yes, that was very difficult to do. So that's kind of the functionality of how I did the LEDs, the fans, and the screen. So let's jump in the back of the tank and I will actually show you the controller itself. Alright, so here we're looking at my actual controller. And yes, it is an old case for a computer, PC. So I just gutted it out and started building what I wanted. So let's look at the back here first. So I've got all my wires coming out of 3 different holes in the back of the tank. And basically what I've got those wires coming out, all of them except for the 3 that are for the computer screen, they're all USB cables. So if you look right there, you can see a stack of USBs all plugged in. So roughly there's 10 USBs, and then 1 starts back at the top, and I've got 9 more free to add on other stuff. So that was made it pretty easy. If I ever have to unplug it, boom, I can unplug them and rip this out of here, go take it in there to my actual computer, do updates on the Arduino or whatever I need to move it around for. So over here is the VGA connections again. So like I said, I've got 3 of them going back in. Then up here, even though I'm not using the relays and the plugs yet, I went on and put my power source in there. It's even got a switch I can turn it on and off with. And then that's the actual main power supply. So I just actually utilized the power supply that came in the controller or the PC, and that's where I gained my power from. Over here you can see I've got a 4-way power outlets. Basically it'll be for my 2 canister filters, my pump on my reactor, and the solenoid on the CO2 once I get that up and going. But wanted to go on and build them in, even though I know they're not hooked up. It'd be easier to have them in there now than trying to get it in there later when I'd have to tear all the wires out to do it. Then right here, this is the actual power supply that is for the LEDs. I did need to power those guys separately. So that's basically my outside of my controller. So just to see how complex this thing is, I'm gonna open it up and give you a brief look at the craziness that's going on in it. Okay, so the first thing you can see is right here. This is where all the USBs come in. So I built that. Again, I can unplug all these and be able to work on there. Back here, you can see that's where the VGA connections come in. And so I used a ribbon wire to get back to the front of the controller. I try to use all this back area for the power stuff and the lines going out. So you can see my relay board here. Again, this isn't hooked up yet, but we got 12 volt relays, so we should be able to be good to power our extra stuff. And got my power supply coming in for the outlets. When you go in the front, right here, you can kind of see them. A lot of wires covering them up, but those are the drivers now for my new LEDs. So those LDDs, meanwhile, a lot smaller than the other ones. I really like those. Really easy to hook up. So I've got 8 of those up and going, and then I've got a couple boards that I built my circuits on. Got one there, and I got one up there. And one thing you got to make sure if you're going to do this kind of thing is make sure you are labeling stuff very well so you know what it is and where it goes. And then here is the actual Arduino board. So yeah, I mean, there's really not a lot to it. A lot of wires, obviously. So yeah, there is a lot of wires to it, but as long as you're wiring stuff and labeling it really well, it makes it a lot easier to get everything set up and get it working properly. You've got to pay attention to detail, and after you build a circuit, you've got to test it, you know. Make sure you're getting the right power going through it. Make sure you got continuity. So that's what I've got right now. Hopefully, you know, at some point either Jamie will get the next version upgraded, or I can actually get with my my father-in-law and we can write some code and add in those relays, the flow sensors, and the dosing pumps. But for now, it's controlling the LEDs. I've got, you know, temperature so I can have that fan stuff come on. That was a pretty big one for me, but that's all I've got, people. That's what I've been doing for several months and where I've been. So shoot me a comment, let me know what you think, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.